All righty. Welcome in here to the weekend wrap up show here on Shelbyville Now. Josh, we got a few things to talk about this morning. I know you've been to a bunch of meetings as
Been to a
always.
bunch of meetings this week.
But before we jump into that, let's hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance from here in Shelbyville. We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All righty. Welcome back to the weekend wrap up show here on Shelbyville Now. And Josh, I noticed that we've got our notes here, and the first thing you're going to talk about is the minute you left out of here last week.
The minute I left out of here last week, I went barely got out. They had the cones at the end of the street. I had to do a little creative driving, and just got to the square in time. We had our Veterans Day parade, and it was a good turnout. I was, to me, it felt like, we don't get official numbers on this, but it felt like more people than I saw at last year's parade. When I was pulling out of here onto Madison, there was people lined up and down Madison Street on both sides. The square was fairly full. Good parade, about 30 minutes long. We had all three of our high school bands there. We had all our first responders, all the veterans organizations. Just a really good event, good weather. And like I do every year, I start on the square. I watch the whole thing on the square. I make a mad dash back to this end over to the horse show grounds, and then basically watch the whole thing again because I get here. I can beat the parade almost. So, but it was really good. Got a lot of good pictures.
Good turnout. Nice pictures put up right after it happened, so everybody that missed it could see kind of what was going on.
Yeah, could see what was going on. And then both the city and the county at different times in the past week, they held ceremonies recognizing the veterans. We get a lot of veterans that work for the county. We get a lot of veterans that work for the city.
Right.
And we talked about it last week, but I thought, we can't overemphasize our veterans, so it's worth talking about again another week. We should probably talk about them every week, but this is the time of year that, we focus on them, and then we'll be on the other side of it on Memorial Day come beginning of summer. But
I think it's an extra special Veterans Day that's coming right after an election.
Yeah.
And then you've got just kind of a theme of America.
Yeah.
And to think about this country, you've got to put our veterans in that conversation. And
absolutely. Cool. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for them. So we hats off to our veterans, and we appreciate all of them. And it was a really good event. Getting out of that into something that wasn't really a daily event, but something I caught noticed the next day. Our friends Amy Campbell and John Sweeney went out to East Tennessee again this week and posted a video, and they were there day 46 after the hurricane, and this area that they were in East Tennessee still has no sewer service. They literally had just gotten their lights on 3 days ago. You still got people living in tents. You just got massive devastation out there, and as we mentioned at the time it happened, which again is weeks ago now, it falls off the news cycle. People forget about it. And those people are still living through that every single day. I mean, literally, you could be living on your property in a tent, with, maybe a generator, maybe not. And it's getting cold out there. So just keep those people in mind. If you've got the ability to give, Donovan Farm and Feed here locally in town continues to send trucks out there on a regular basis. They've got a truck going out today with supplies. And then the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association, which you had a name. What's
Tweeba.
Tweeba is doing a large toy drive. We posted it on our Facebook page. There's a number of drop-off locations in town where you could drop off toys. All those toys will be going to East Tennessee and North Carolina. So just if you've got the ability to give, that's a good place that you could be giving over the holidays, because those people could really still need it for sure. So,
Josh, it's crazy how our news cycle runs, and this doesn't get the exposure.
Oh, it didn't
that it
a week. Maybe it was in the news a week and it falls off. But again, this is, we're a month and a half down the road, and a month and a half, we're nowhere near the end.
Three years from now, this is still going to be
massive. Have issues.
A generation. This is a generational storm where families are changed for a generation.
Forever, especially, if you lost a family member or something, this is the whole rest of your life you're going to live with this. So, anything we could do to help them would be great. As far as actual meetings, I did go to this week, which there was a lot of them. We're just going to cover a couple of them. Tuesday morning was our pre-planning meeting for the city. That's the meeting before the meeting.
Right,
so
right.
This is before an item even gets to planning commission. It actually goes to what's called pre-planning. This is where in the conference room you've got our city police, fire, public works, Shelbyville Power, water, planning. Everybody gets in and looks at the plans of things that are going to be coming. These things that we met about on Tuesday morning will be on the December planning agenda, and just look at them, and everybody gives their comments and says, hey, this is good. Hey, you need to fix this. Hey, whatever. December is usually a slow month. So this pre-planning meeting, it only had 12 items on
Question.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pre-planning meeting, is this like the meeting before the study session? Is that what this is? Or is this the meeting before you actually have the council meeting?
No, this is the meeting before it even goes to the planning commission
Okay,
meeting.
right. So it's way back.
This is
Okay. Okay.
This is like the beginning of the first big meeting on any of these projects. So of the 12 things on the agenda, a couple of them are repeats because sometimes you'll have like a site plan and then something that goes with it. So it was really only about 10 properties, nothing major to report other than just there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike in planning. I want to go ahead and mention now, because we're going to talk about it a lot next week, the November Planning Commission meeting, which is the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, which is just coming up a little over a week and a half from now,
Right.
is a big one. We've got the big property on Brown Lane, which is 70 plus homes, I believe, which I know is controversial with the people that live over on Fairfield Pike. And then the big one, the swing property, they're going to at least have to give a presentation on that. I don't think it's going to get to a vote. It's possibly could get to a vote because it's on the agenda, and that's 715 units on Union Street in Cloverdale.
Will this vote be to rezone, or will this vote be to approve their plans, or what will that vote actually be?
Two different votes.
Right.
The one on Brown Lane, this will be to approve their plans. That property is already zoned,
ready to go.
There's no, and I know the neighbors are not happy with it. At the end of the day, there's no way to say no on that one. They do have to hit all their requirements. They got to hit their design guidelines. They got to. So that meeting will basically be looking if they checked all the boxes. So for that one, for the other one, the swing property, it's not zoned correctly. It's zoned R1. So they've got to decide, do we want to rezone this into a PUD to allow them to bring this neighborhood into that area with that amount of people and traffic and so on and so forth?
So they're going from a R1. Now, this is probably out of people's memory because it's been a little while.
Oh, December was the last time.
So you go from R1 to probably R3 and R4 in some areas.
It'll be called PUD, but it'll be R4 level density. It'll be townhomes. It'll be houses on lots as small as 5,000 square feet is what you're allowed on that. So tiny lots. Stacking them and packing them against 120 or so acres, and you do the math based on the numbers that they use at planning, which is 3 point so many people per residential unit. You end up at about 2,500 people on 120 acres with 2 access points, Union Street and Cloverdale.
Josh, I used to live out there. I still have family that lives out there. I've been out there a little bit recently, and I'm glad I don't live out there right now. Before this, I mean, the traffic is like ridiculous at times.
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to dig into it too much this week, but we will have a lot to say about it next week. There's we've already gone off on tangent, but I'll give one more while we're here.
Sorry about that, Josh.
I heard on one of the government radio shows this week mentioned, and it's not said enough, when we always look at all these rooftops coming in and we think more rooftops equals more tax revenue equals, government's growing, and it's good.
Government's growing is not good.
Not good. But the point I'm trying to make is if you have a person move into one of these townhomes, the property tax that they pay, if they've just got one kid, it already costs more to educate that kid than that townhome generates in property tax. If they have 2 kids, we're going way in the hole.
The numbers don't add up.
The math doesn't work. Yeah, the more of these, especially these high density ones we bring in, the tax revenue generated does not cover the services that it requires to bring
Bottom
them
line,
in.
for us to get a benefit of more rooftops, those rooftops need to be on mansions.
Well, that, and we're not allowed currently, if you build in Nolensville, if you build in some of the communities in Rutherford County, there's an impact fee. We're not allowed to impose an impact fee right now based on state law and the way our city charter is. So the city gets nothing as far as an impact fee. The county gets what is, I can't remember the name of it, but it's $1 a square foot to help with school building.
Right.
But again, on a 1,200 square foot property, you're not covering what it's costing you in school expansion, when you build one of those. So just things that we'll get deeper into next week.
Sorry.
We got off on a tangent,
I'm
but that's
sorry.
all right.
Tangents are good sometimes.
Sometimes. Same day, Tuesday, we had our county commission meeting. And the big item that we knew ahead of time was going to be the item, because we'd already heard some rumblings about it, was they voted on this new state law, which allowed them to pay $600 each to county commissioners.
Allowed them.
Allowed. It did say recommended, but it also did not say they had to. So they allowed $600 payments to county commissioners if they completed their 8 hours of required training. They have to do the 8 hours whether they're getting paid or not, which works out to $75 an hour, which is neither here nor there. But there was a lot of discussion. There was a little of, we might be expenses if you have to travel and do this training stuff, which may be the case, but in reality, you can do all 8 hours sitting at home in your underwear on your computer if you want to.
In your underwear.
It's allowed. So all you gotta do is watch the videos.
You don't
online.
have to leave the house.
You don't have to leave the house.
No traveling involved.
No, you can travel and go to events and get the same hours for the same thing, but you don't have to for the 8 hours. So a lot of discussion. There was the most arguments were against, but there were some people that argued for it. But once they got into the actual vote, the first couple people said no, and it was, it was like a dominoes. Snowball rolling down a hill. Yeah. And next thing you know, 17-0, the vote was, they decided. And also, our county attorney did say it was, what did he say? It
reeked of a pay raise. It reeked of
giving yourself a pay raise, which it was technically not a pay raise, but it smelled like a pay
raise.
I
heard that it was in that conversation, dangling the carrot, an incentive.
Yeah, it was
to do what you're supposed to do.
What you're supposed to do, which most people are doing, but we've got at least one that's not. And if you look in the comments of the YouTube video, you see we posted the state comptroller's report on who has and who has not been doing their training in the county. So for the most part, we've been in compliance anyways without the $600. And I think it was a good decision. And that was the way we argued it last week.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it be 17-0.
Yeah, it was good to be 17-0 and not be divided.
Yeah,
county commission.
It sounded like it was going to be like a split vote, the way some of the comments were, but it came out 17-0.
Yeah, the discussion seemed like it would be split, but it did not end up that way. So Wednesday morning, just a brief mention, went to the election commission. They certified the final results of the election. 35 people voted provisionally. I don't know how many people realize that sometimes you get in there to vote and for whatever reason your name isn't in the computer right or whatnot. So they give you a paper ballot, you fill it out. There's a separate, and I don't even know when this meeting happens, but there's something called a provisional ballot committee or something. Somebody meets and goes over those and decides if you legitimately were allowed to vote or not. They added those into the number. It didn't change the results. So now the November 5th election is official. It's certified. And those poor people at the election commission, they get a few months off. Actually, they get a long time off. We don't have an election, I don't believe, until 2026 at this point. So I think they have to meet on a quarterly basis. What they do is every time they get a stack of new voter registrations in, they have to review 10% of them there on site. That's what I've seen as I've gone to those meetings. I was kind of wondering what they do at those meetings, so I went to a couple, and that's mainly what they do is they sit there with a lot of papers and go through them and make sure people are registered they're supposed to be registered. So Thursday morning, quick event, just want to mention, I've been going to this the last couple of months, business networking for the Now. This happened at First Community Bank on Elm Street, and it was a good turnout, good event. A presentation was made there, and it was later made at the county and the city meetings. Just wanted to mention this event's way off in the future, but they're starting to promote it now. We're having the first ever Shelbyville Bedford 5K connected community. You going to go out and run 5 kilometers, are you, David? You got till May 10th of 2025.
And is this a fundraiser of some sort?
Yeah, this is a fundraiser for the 501c3 Shelbyville Bedford Community Foundation. So,
now what does that group do?
They do those grants for teachers at the school and stuff. So yeah, this is the first. I don't think we have another big 5K in town. This is kind of most towns have some kind of a 5K at least once a year. I mean, you go to Nashville,
we've got the strolling gym that comes through here.
That comes through, but yeah, they're going to start on the square. I think they're going to run up towards the celebration maybe, and then I think come back and end up back on the square. They told us about the route, but
I won't be entering.
now I think they have like the little 1 mile fun walk where you just kind of
Yeah,
walk
maybe.
and stroll along at your own pace. So, but it sounds like it's going to be a good event. The city's already behind it. The county's behind it. The school system's behind it. So this is May 10th. They're hoping. They're planning. Their starting plan is 1,000, but they're hoping to get as many as 2,000 people entered. So we'll see. We'll
That's
see
a
how
lot of
that goes.
people.
That's a lot of people. So, final event that we're going to talk about that I went to this week is Thursday. We had our city council meeting, and as we expected last weekend, going into the meeting, the one and only item on the agenda that was had any heavy discussion and was discussed for, I'd say, a solid 45 minutes was the new soccer park at HV Griffin. So before we get into that discussion and make some points, I want to emphasize, as I said last week, I am very pro soccer. So I spent 18 years on a soccer field between 3 kids, starting at the rec level up to I even assistant coached a runner-up at the state tournament at the high school level on my youngest ones. I believe it was his sophomore, junior year. So I was on those fields for a lot of, especially those rec soccer years when we were in Donaldson. They had we'd be 3 or 4 nights a week at practice, and then Saturday you're there for like 4 hours on Saturday morning playing games. So love soccer, was in support of the initial proposal that they brought forward, but as can only happen at a government meeting, as I've told several people, we walked into that meeting with the Parks Department asking for $770,000 over 2 years.
And that's to go to match the amount we had to put up for the grant.
That got us to where we hit the grant number just right on the dollar. And we walked out of the meeting with an approval to spend up to $2.5 million, which would have to be borrowed money. And I am not in support of borrowing money for this soccer park at this time, due to the fact that we've got our first responders, our police and our fire department sitting in facilities that are way past due. And we've been leaving them hanging out there high and dry for a number of years, and they need an upgrade. And I would put that on a priority list as far as the bond part of it.
Yeah,
I'd do a bond for a new fire hall police station way before I do a bond for the soccer park. Now, again, as initially proposed, the 770, that we could fit in the budget, didn't require borrowing money. It split over 2 years, $385,000 a year. And I think that's where we're going to end up, because the way the resolution was brought forward was we're only borrowing the money and doing the additional if the state turns down the $1.7 million.
so if we don't get the grant,
property
we're moving
value.
forward, basically.
Well, we would get the grant, but they're saying if the state doesn't accept the
No,
$1.7 million
land.
property valuation, that we would then put that up as cash. But to put that up as cash, we've then got to borrow money to do that, because we don't have that kind of space in the budget. I got our fund balance
Okay.
numbers they sent
All right.
to us,
So-
and we're sitting at the end of this fiscal year, because of what we got going on with the flood pumps and whatnot, we're sitting at $10.9 million, but we've got a base we can't go below of 6.8. So that's not a huge amount of space in there. And in addition to police and fire, the thing that's always hanging over us is the flume. I mean, the
I
flume,
know it. We could have a street cave in at any time.
I could drive out of here today and hear something on the scanner and drive downtown. We could have a hole in the road, and we could be looking at a $4 million repair
Or more.
Yeah, anytime. I believe the last
Years.
time it collapsed, it was $3 million, and that was years ago. So,
And then we had the right behind the old chamber building where your meeting was the other night. That was just recently. I'm saying finished probably 2-3 years ago, and it was a massive hole right there where they were putting in new parts to it. Mayor Cartwright was in the office at that time, but I think that was a $2 or $3 million project itself. So now I got into a conversation with somebody, and the guy looked at me, "You're just against progress." No, I'm all for progress. I think we should make sure our streets don't cave in and we don't flood the city.
Yeah.
I mean, that's progress if we can get that done.
Yeah, those are kind of basic.
Now the
minimums.
soccer thing,
Yeah.
Hey, it's great for our kids. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I wish our soccer league had the very best to do whatever it's going to do. Now I know the end result of this project is going to be $15 million when it's all said and done, is to attract people to come in and have major tournaments.
Yeah, and that was a lot of the discussion. Is they put out all these tournament numbers, and I'm not buying the tournament thing yet, and I'll tell you why. Some of the comparisons they used, for instance, were Smyrna. They showed some Smyrna tournaments. I'm in Smyrna all the time. If you've been to Smyrna, it's got ton of restaurants. I mean, there's not a restaurant chain you could name that's not in Smyrna.
Right.
And they got hotels,
Lined up
on every corner. So they've got a lot more other things that we don't necessarily have. And the big key, and this is part of the reason I moved here and part of the reason it makes it harder to draw these tournaments, Smyrna's on the interstate. I can't get to any interstate from my house in less than 30 minutes from here. And that was on purpose. That's why I moved here, was to be 30 minutes away from any interstate. But that's a draw for those kind of, even interstate, we used to have the fields that we had. I was in Antioch for a number of years where I did the high school soccer and whatnot. Our fields, we hosted the state Special Olympics flag football every year and a couple other big events. But you could literally see Interstate 24 from our fields. I mean, you could walk over and you walk on the interstate if you went over the fence. It was that close. And part of the reason we were able to host those big state events is we were on the interstate. We had hotels were. I mean, you could almost walk to several of the hotels. We had an Olive Garden, had all these restaurants. And some of that is going to be a deterrent from a bigger tournament from coming here, which isn't to say that we're not going to get tournaments, and depending on the facility we end up with, that we won't get some. But that's why you may not get as much as a Smyrna, as a Murfreesboro, where they've got more, more other things. And we need to, where's our Hampton Inn? We need some hotels, and hopefully we start getting them here before too long. But those are the kind of things that you need in addition to, we could have the Taj Mahal as soccer facilities, but if you don't have anywhere to spend the night or anywhere to eat,
who's coming?
Yeah, who's going to come? So currently, if we had a big, if it was all built today and we had a big soccer tournament, you're going to spend the night in Tullahoma or Murfreesboro. You're not going to stay here. You're not going to have the capacity here too.
A lot of places, when they plan events like that, they look at the downtime between games. What's there to do for your kids, and what's there to do for a family? Okay, and you're just right across the street from in Smyrna. You're just down the road from Nashville, and you got Murfreesboro. You got a lot of different things going on.
Yeah,
here we don't have that. You would have to drive back to those areas, and then it's a logistics issue. I know down at Panama City Beach, Florida, they have a huge park. They do soccer, they do baseball. Seems like year round. Every time I go down there, there's kids everywhere.
Yeah,
well, they got. Their soccer field is a quarter of a mile from the most beautiful beach in the world. Okay, that's a draw. People go down there to have a vacation.
Yeah,
a lot of places like that are capitalizing on these. Now, my question to you, Josh, is when you were in Antioch there, did anybody ever do any type of analysis as far as if it was cash flow positive for the facility? That's the thing.
No, we were a private school, so we weren't in it for the money. Honestly, I don't think we took any money at all. I went down there every year, and we had our kids and parents. We volunteered at the event, did the gate and stuff. And I think all the money went to the Special Olympics for that particular event, and a lot of the other things that we hosted too. It was our property. We didn't have a note on it, so there was no. Okay. We weren't looking to make money off it.
So I'm setting this up to say this. I'm for this. Okay, 100% for the kids having a facility to play soccer. There's no question. Yeah. But at what expense do we do it? To the point to where we jeopardize other things that are a priority on our spend list. Okay. Right. When you start looking at your budget numbers over here and you look at our cash on hand, do we deplete it trying to do this project when we've got these other major things that we got to deal with when it comes to all this population explosion we're dealing with? So how do we balance that, Josh, over the years?
Yeah. And again, let's going back to the beginning, very pro soccer. And I think it's going to work out okay. I think the state's going to accept the $1.7 million. We're going to put in the 770. We're going to get a nice facility that we're going to be able to have fall and spring rec soccer out there right off the bat, from day one, once it's ready, which they're saying 18 months.
One thing that came up, Josh, I'm going to ask, since you're right on this, what we're going to get right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Restrooms were a big concern. I know Bobby Turnbow was fussing about restrooms, which makes
how we
sense.
Got twisted up. Yeah. So Trevor, who's our parks director, he said he was very conservative with the numbers. He didn't want to have to come back and ask for money later. So it seems fairly certain that they could, with a few tweaks here and there, like they're asking for 650 parking spaces. If they started with 400 parking spaces, they're going to have enough money left over. They could build a couple restroom and concession buildings, I would think, which those are, I think dollar wise, you're looking maybe 150, 200,000 per building for a building like that with restrooms and concessions. Because they just built those. They're building those right now. The county is at Community in Cascade,
Right.
yeah, at the high school. So similar building. I think they're even using prefabs at those. So,
Well,
so cut a little bit at the parking on the beginning if you have to, and make it fit. Basically, stay within your budget, and I think we can
fences,
get it.
bleachers, and lights. Are they included in this?
Lights, I'd say no way. I haven't seen dollar figures, but LED lights are expensive now. So I know that was listed. We posted something. I just posted phase 1.
I remember. I didn't see it there.
Phase 2 was lights were included in phase 2, and no dollar figure yet on that. And bleachers. Now soccer, you don't even normally do bleachers on that. I don't
soccer mom chairs.
Yeah, really. You do
chairs.
soccer mom chairs, and they. On the big plans, they did show like some shade structures in a couple spots, but none of that's in phase 1. And fencing, I do not know. Nobody ever talked about fencing.
That's expensive.
Mainly, fencing's expensive. Mainly, it's going to be a big. I didn't bring the paper with me. I think it's basically 300 by 1,500 feet of empty grass is what you got, and then you got to line it off and make the field. So I don't think they were talking about a lot of fencing on the front end either.
Well,
so
a lot of money for moving the dirt and get it flat, and make a pad. Basically,
stormwater is a big thing. That's over close to a flood area. They got to get the grading and stuff right because they don't want to flood. I think you've got some townhomes pretty close over there downstream. So there's a lot of concerns with that, where the water is going to come down off a ridge there and go in the right direction. And we had a comment on that. It's seemed like a government job where it's $2.5 million to move some dirt, but it is. I mean, it's going to be an expensive project.
Yeah.
So. I think Trevor can get it done for the proposal he presented. I think that's where we're going to end up. So I think that part's good. I just hope we don't get to the stage where the state comes back and says we're not taking that property, because then we got to decide, are we going to borrow money for this? And I'd have a hard time borrowing money for this when we've got other issues on the board. So, but going to stay positive, and I think we're going to get it. I think we'll have, based on their timelines, we could have rec soccer there as early as fall 2026. I would say more reasonable would be spring 2020. They said 18 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a long-term project here.
It's going to take some time.
All right. Very good.
And other than that, that was all the meetings. I did want to mention the real quick. This was the first, and I posted this, but I just want to say thanks again to city staff. This was the first time ever they posted the entire packet of information that city council people get to review before these meetings. And now I feel bad about asking for it, because when I realized how big it was and realized what a job it probably was to put this together. So an extra big thanks to probably Lisa, who had to do a lot of the work. But this month, it was 242 pages of information.
That's a book.
That's a book. That's a whole book. So there's a lot out there that they have to review before each of these meetings. I've been through it once so far, and I'll probably try to go through it at least a second time. One thing I just want to bring out of it real quick that I had noticed, we always cover the police numbers, but they get a nice report that we had not gotten in the past, which is a year-over-year comparison. And two numbers jumped out at me that we talked about, I think, last week, even when the police gave them to us, which is, for some reason, in the month of October, our accidents in town more than doubled. In 2023, we had 34 in October, and this year we had 77. So that's a bad trend.
More cars, more wrecks.
More cars,
and you can expect this number to go up.
Yeah, so that's not good. So
that's not counting all the hit and runs, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. Well, that's people that filed a police report.
So
well,
that would have to be a hit and run, but the hit and runs are going to keep going up.
Yeah. So the good number on there was our domestic violence went down in 2023. We had 93 calls in October. It went down to 59. So that part's good. Just if anybody's ever curious, because we don't normally get this report. Number of people arrested in October: adults 163 and 16 juveniles. So. Still a lot of people out there on the streets doing things that get them dragged into jail for some reason. So
you'd think they'd learn.
You would think they would know better, but apparently not. So, but other than that, that was all the meetings I went to. There was one that's actually going on as we speak, and I debated going to the first hour of it, but I thought I'd rather sleep in, especially since I stayed up late watching that fight last night that I shouldn't waste my time on.
Really.
And but as we sit here, our school board is meeting, and I think they're calling it some kind of retreat. They're having a 4-hour meeting this morning over at the school board office. And I would imagine the main discussion, I hope anyways, is they need to get a new 5 and 10-year plan, because with all this growth coming in, we need some schools pretty quick. And so they're meeting this morning, and maybe we'll get some kind of report or hear something from that maybe for next week.
Yeah.
So,
Alrighty.
but before we talk about what happens next week, let's hear from our sponsor one more time.
We'll be right back.
with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to the weekend wrap-up show. Now we're going to talk about next week. Josh, we got a big upcoming week. What else going on?
Not that big, actually. We're getting into the holiday season, so things kind of slow down in government, but I do have a few things I'm going to, and we'll cover them next weekend. Tuesday at noon, MTAS is coming back into town, and we're discussing the city charter again. They did this.
Question.
Yep.
Explain to everybody what MTAS is.
It's municipal something.
All right.
They're the state organization. It runs out of UT, and they kind of give, I guess they're kind of consulting to the
Right.
city government, basically.
And they're not the law.
They're not the
They're
law,
just
but
a
they're
place.
lawyers and people that should know the law,
Right.
and they give advice to cities like ours
Right.
as far as what they can do, what they can't do.
Right.
And so we had this exact meeting, I can't remember what month it was, maybe 3-4 months ago. And they came up with a bunch of ideas, and then they sat on it too long, and now they've changed their mind on some of them.
Okay.
So now we're going to have another meeting about the exact same thing.
MTAS changed their mind.
No,
We
our
changed
council
ours.
changed their
Okay.
mind.
All right. Okay.
So MTAS knew what they wanted. We didn't know what we wanted. One of the proposals, actually, though, that they presented, which was the one to make it where a county employee cannot sit on the city council. That got a fairly probably not going to happen from MTAS, and I believe even our city attorney looked at it as well. It seems like that may not be legal, so I think that's going away for sure.
Wait a minute. That's
yeah.
not legal for us
to adopt. I don't think it didn't sound like they're going to.
Okay.
That would pass. Yeah. It seemed like
But
that
a
was a little
city
bit of an
employee,
overreach.
can't.
City employee cannot sit on the city council. That's in our charter, and that's legal. They felt like there wasn't enough conflict, I think, is the reasoning
They
between
need
the county
to
employee.
look at
and
what's
us.
going on
So,
around here.
well, we've got
Never mind.
the one thing that's hanging over us. But other than
Yeah.
that, in general day-to-day operations, a county employee shouldn't have a lot of overlap with what's going on at city council. So I think that was the reasoning anyways. So basically they're going to meet about something they already met about, and maybe this time they'll come to a decision and actually change the charter or not. Tuesday, 5:00, county committee meetings. I looked over those agendas already. Nothing big. One little item of note. The rules committee is going to discuss finally disbanding the road board. That was on the ballot twice this year. They tried to get people to run for it. Nobody ran for it. Near as I could tell from what was in the packet, the road board doesn't really do much anything anyways. At this point, the road superintendent for the county, who's elected, between that and the finance department, they make all the decisions. So the road board was kind of, obsolete and just had never been done away with. So they're going to try to pass something that gets rid of that.
Okay.
So it's just gone. Other than that, the rest of the meeting is going to be, well, they're going to again discuss the bylaws of the county commission. Don't know if that's going to go anywhere. I would expect it's going to get deferred again if I were just guessing here. And then a lot of our normal reports, which there's always something interesting that comes out of those reports.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Wednesday, next to Kroger, there was a restaurant. It was called Highway 55. It went away. It became Better Days Diner, I
Right.
guess. Better Days Diner went away this week. So it is now going to reopen on Wednesday as Whiskey City Grill. That is, if anybody knows him, I do, and that's why I mentioned it. It's Chris Lowry, I believe is his last name. But anyways, he was the guy that he cooked at Pope's, and it was good at Pope's. He went to Hall's Mill Market and ran the kitchen there while they were in business. They're no longer in business. Great food at a Hall's Mill Market. He was like sous chefing out at Humble Baron, I believe, for a little bit. He's been at Emmy's recently. But anyways, he's opening his own restaurant for the first time open, Whiskey Sea Grill. It's mainly a burger place. I love me a good burger. I was a patron of Gabby's Burgers in Nashville for the entire time I lived there. So if he puts together a good burger place, I'll be going there for lunch.
All right, I want to stop right here and say
Yeah.
we have lost a few local-owned restaurants in the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
We've had some shuttered.
Yeah.
We have got to support these local small business people. And I'm just going to put a plug into it. They're the ones that you go to church with. They're the ones that you become friends with. They're the owners of these people that have money at risk. Please support these local-owned businesses. The chains that come in, maybe we know people that work there, but the people that own them, most of the time, they're not from around here unless they just want to take a risk and invest in a franchise of some sort. But these folks are putting their life on the line to provide these services. We need to support them.
And it's hard. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to open a restaurant. I mean, most restaurants fail within the first year. And you've really got to have a year's worth of capital to even try to open a restaurant because it's, and to build up the business, the name recognition. And don't go on Facebook if you have one bad experience at a local restaurant and bash. I hate that. When you go on there and you see one guy that got sat at the table and he sat there too long and he goes on and bashes them. And then, 50 people see that and they decide not to go there and they go eat somewhere else. So, give them a little bit of grace, support them as much as you can. We love our local restaurants. I'm at, I can't even name them all, but I'm at Pope's all the time. I'm at Coffee Break. I'm at, there's so many good local places that we can go eat. We've got the Glass Hollow table on the square now if you want to have a nice meal.
We got Roos, we got Southern Fare, we got the dinner table, all these.
I recently switched from Papa John's, who I've eaten Papa John's pizza for a number of years. I've switched to Shovel Pizza.
Yeah.
They're a great pizza. They're locally owned, and it's not a chain, and nice group of kids.
Bocelli, right down the road.
Bocelli, I've eaten at Bocelli a number of times.
Of course, you mentioned Glass Hollow, Upscale. I mean, all these folks are your neighbors.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Emmy's. I've not had a chance to eat at Emmy's yet. I have
good.
Southern Fare. I've been to Southern Fare 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks. They have great food. I hear good things about Ruth's Kitchen on the east side of town. So many good places in town to eat without going to a chain. We won't name and bash any chains, other than I did kind of bash there, Papa John's. But but in general, there are, and we hear we see the same complaints everybody else puts on Facebook. Oh, I wish we had a this or we had a that. Well, support the ones that are there first, and you'll get more of a this and a that.
Right.
So don't drive into Murfreesboro and eat at the new Panera Bread that they just opened there. I know you want to eat at Panera, but stay in town and eat somewhere.
And it costs more. You got to drive. You got to fight the traffic. Right here, we just fight the traffic locally and go and not spend
the taxes you spend at the restaurant here in town goes into local schools and services.
It helps pay for soccer fields.
It helps pay for soccer fields. You go into Murfreesboro, you're helping pay for their facilities. They got enough money
pay
up
for
there
their
already.
soccer fields.
Yeah, they got enough money up there already. Keep it in town.
We have got to do that.
Yeah, support local. Last meeting I'll be at this week, Thursday, school board meeting, 6:00. Nothing crazy on the agenda I saw. I did see they're having it at Shelbyville Central for some reason. Not sure. Maybe they're having some kind of special presentation there, so I'll have to get there early to find out where in the building it's at. But other than that, no other meetings in the upcoming week. Looking a little further in the future, we'll just mention it because everybody's been mentioning it at all the meetings. December 3rd is the big Christmas extravaganza on the square that we're going to try to have this year. We got live reindeer.
Have you ever?
We got singing. I saw on the list, I hadn't even noticed it today, we're going to have a mariachi band. I hope they're like mariachi Christmas music. That could be interesting. So fireworks.
Extravaganza.
Fireworks. I mean, it's everything. There's free movie at the, they're showing the Christmas movie, I think.
Man, the first thing I think of when I hear extravaganza, I think of Las Vegas or New York City. So that's happening in Shelbyville, Tennessee.
They're shutting the square down. You will not be able to drive onto the square. You're going to have to park offside, and they're going to have shuttles.
Will they have the lights installed and lights lit up on the square?
I still haven't heard. Maybe that's a big surprise. Maybe they actually got them in time.
Put a green light on the courthouse.
Light it up. I know they're lighting up the tree. So, yeah. But
right,
this is, it's the biggest event that I've seen that we've ever attempted on the square. At one of the finance meetings, a dollar figure was thrown out that they were planning on spending at least $70,000 on this. So this is, pretty big.
Who's spending $70,000?
Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
Through all donor money. So
that's pretty big.
So for a little, little town square. So we'll see how that goes. That's December 3rd. That starts at, I think it starts as early as 3. It's like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And Yeah. I had people say, "Oh, you're going to be there all 6 hours." I'm like,
No.
probably not.
Go and
So,
come.
Yeah, come and go, and I'm going to find out when the tree lighting is, obviously, and try to get there around that time.
Now, all the
So-
parking's going to be shut down on the square.
Right,
the way I
you've got to
understand it.
park off site.
So
There'll
where,
be maps.
where are we
on-
going to park?
Yeah,
Just all down the tributary roads.
I would
getting up to it?
imagine, and again, they'll have maps. They're bringing in shuttles. I think even like the little shuttle trolley that runs at Nearest Green, they're going to bring that as one of the shuttles. And I would think places like in front of the Goodwill and stuff would be logical.
Yeah, that
places
big
they're
spring
gonna-
parking lot.
Yeah,
there,
stuff like that. I don't know for sure which lots yet, but they'll have all that'll be online as it gets around. So
Big deal.
be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for us next week. Same time, same place, same station, 10 o'clock live with the news that matters right here at Shelbyville Now. Just come back and join us, and we'll tell you what happened.